My name is Carlos Rivera, and today I'll be reviewing the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass by Frederick Douglass. One of the reasons I chose this over many of the literature that we've read this year is just because of its impact and its timeliness. This was something that was written still during slavery time and during the abolition movement, yet in today's world, we still experience some of the same inequalities and verbiage, maybe not to the extent of the abuse and things that were experienced by Frederick Douglass, but nonetheless, definitely a social impacting story. Obviously, from many of the other narratives that have been written or other things that have been written around slavery time, even some of the movies that have come out, I recall, years ago, when the miniseries Roots came out, that was very impactful based on Alex Haley's information. And 12 Years a Slave has been more within the last couple of years that has surfaced. And there's been countless other movies, adaptations of books that have been written. So, obviously the more information that we can get, the better. The one thing that was very impactful about the narrative of Frederick Douglass was in his life was he was one of the first former slaves to be able to really depict and write on the horrors of slavery to a point of where it became very obvious that there was a misconstruing or misinformation about what slavery really entailed. For most people that were non-slave owners, their thought was similar to maybe what a migrant worker would be today, where they have certainly a lower salary, more physical work out in the fields, but I don't think that they ever imagined the horrors or deplorable conditions, let alone the physical and mental abuse that was going on during slavery times. Frederick Douglass himself has a moment of enlightenment, and one of the more paralleled themes within the book is that as his mind is enlightened and is freed, his view of himself changes. So throughout the book, you see the humble beginnings of not even really knowing who his father was, who was believed to probably be his own master, but you see the separation of the families, you see the deliberate act to keep a race of people illiterate, and yet the triumph and the power of the spoken word and how it liberated and freed not only his mind, but eventually led to his own seeking of his own freedom and buying out his rights. So again, the book was not only socially impacting in a political sense, but also it led to many of the advancements that were made towards the abolition of slavery. And of course, it's a cautionary tale even for us today. Just as recent as this week, we had an incident with an NBA owner who used similar verbiage to what you would hear of a plantation owner or a slave master that they use as far as his people, and being able to give them clothes and feed them, etc. And yet that was the very justification for slavery during that time. So again, I think the book is timeless. I think that Frederick Douglass intended reason for writing it is very evident as far as how he felt about slavery, about the conditions, and he used very vivid language to describe not only the hardships of the people, the abuse, the subhuman conditions, and just the overall negative experience that it was to be brought up a slave. So I enjoyed the book from that perspective, even though it can be a hard read to see what some of the folks went through. The emasculation of some of the men there. Remember the old man being emasculated in front of his own son by the slave owner because of the condition of the horses. So there's a lot of rich information in the story. And again, the impact is timeless, and I'm glad that I was able to read this story.